Record to this computer. Hello, everyone. It's Shane Trades with Traderlink, and today's class will be hosted by Liquidose, JCrispin, and Fatte. They'll be going over, I believe, Gamma, Vana, and Charm today, and a little bit more. But I'll let you guys take over for now, and I hope everyone enjoys.
All right. What's up, everybody?
What's up, everyone?
What's going on? Hope everyone had a bang today.
So we're going to do, like Sheen just said, Gamma, Vana, and Charm. They're all the second derivatives of Delta. And last week we talked about volatility and just Delta itself. And now we're going to take the next step down into, what we use every day for the most part. We have recordings of today and yesterday, which are fucking excellent examples of negative gamma yesterday and positive gamma today, even though today was really crazy. And good examples of in the day charm effects that people always want to know about. So let's get started here. Oh, what I just said. This is a little flowchart here that kind of lays out each different level of derivatives. You can see these are all the first level. This is essentially what your brokerage will show you usually. And now, oops, did I click? We're doing Delta, Gamma, Vana, and Charm. You can see Charm is the time to expiry for Delta, so it's the Delta decay. Vana is how volatility affects Delta, and then Gamma is how price affects Delta. So essentially, it's just the next level down. You can see from the first, and then everything below is third. Everyone kind of knows about these, but we don't talk about them much except for speed. Those would be the third levels. Speed, yeah, yeah, boy. So basically, just starting with Gamma here, this is the price of an option, this line right here. And this is something I don't think we've ever talked about on stream. This is actually the Gamma curve. And this is why Gamma, we always say, is strongest at the money. You can see the curve itself is actually furthest from the point at the money. As we go further away, it has less of an effect. Or as you go more in the money.
As it goes in the money.
Yeah. And this is why when you buy really far out the money contracts, the gamma value is really low, but when it gets closer and closer, this area gets massive. So the payout gets bigger and bigger. And of course, if you buy something really far in the money already, it doesn't have a lot of leeway to grow. Yeah, no, you never really see it like this. And then obviously, as the day goes on, this curve gets lower and lower, right? So to the point where this is, like 1 delta, right? 1 or 100, right? Where it's equal to 100 shares. And down here, it's, this is usually like 50. So it's just a good way to visualize it, something to think about. You don't always have to, pull out the gamma curve to know, but it's kind of good to know.
Yeah, Nadenberg. Yeah, perfect. I was gonna say Nadenberg's illustration as well shows how it's gamma is technically greatest at the money.
Yeah, biggest at the money.
Yeah, which is why you can get kind of those like gamma slides almost up or down, because as each consecutive strike goes in the money, the next one will start to grow, and then it becomes the AOI pulls and so forth.
Exactly. And this is illustrating more of just like a giant price action way. If we consider this, oops, my bad drawing, a big AOI, right? This thing's kind of skippy. You can see if it's really far over here, it's going to grow in sensitivity as we get closer, but as we get further over, like Fatte was saying, there's kind of a slide effect where it kind of starts to slide off and has less effect. But you can tell over on the far left side, that this curve is pretty exponential in comparison to this side. This side kind of dies off a little quicker. So this is what gives the effect as we move up. The effect of the AOI starts to have less push on a price or less pull. Fatty's in the tunnels of Vegas. He's down there with Pennywise. And then also why, if an AOI is too far away, if it's, let's say, out here, it's not going to be in effect with this curve. It's not going to be able to have effect on the price action because the gamma curve is too far away, or it's, at zero. So, and then just basically the differences between the environments. I know a lot of people know these, and this is something I touched on last week with Delta, but in a positive gamma environment, liquidity is abundant, right? We're talking about the order book, how, we're like sub 15 percentage wise, means there's a lot of orders. It's not like a penny stock, so the price is gonna go like this. It's not gonna ride like a roller coaster like that. It's because there's a lot of orders and it's hard to move the market, right? Low realized volatility means there is not a lot of institutions taking money out because it's not less risky because there's not a big difference between the implied volatility, right? Their models are telling them that they don't need to pull the money out, and it's going to keep them profitable if they can just sit in there. In a negative environment, liquidity is inadequate, so it's the opposite, right? Order book is thin. It's more like a penny stock, so it's easy to move. Someone can come in and just dump the market, right, with a big put order, like we saw in December. If some people remember that day, it was like the 27th December. Higher realized volatility, so institutions will be taking money off the books, right? And then higher implied volatility means less people buying because everything is so expensive. They don't want to touch it, so it's harder to find buyers and or sellers, or there's lots of other factors. So, and then based on just that last thing, I know some people have seen this before. I'll share this again in the Discord. This is just based on those past two rules. This is why this works, right? And this is why when we associate volatility, high volatility with down, price action going down, and low volatility with price action going up, with those last rules I just kind of laid out, essentially. So I think the next thing is essentially Vana. Fetty's got an example. I think everyone's seen this Nattenberg graph. He's down in Narnia.
Yeah, exactly. So, honestly, when I first kind of got into these Greeks and things, I would charts and think, oh, bigger bar, right? Bigger bar on Vanna must mean bigger, higher volatility. It's actually the exact opposite. And then, so if you'll notice on negative, especially on negative gamma days, or when we're in a higher volatility regime, you'll notice that Vanna is much flatter. And this, in my opinion, this does a really good job of illustrating that, right? So the lower those Vanna bars you see, that means we are period of higher volatility. So that is when you can, use that to your advantage if you know that we are in that higher volatility. You can kind of, position yourself accordingly and try to take advantage of that.
In case people are wondering. So small bars. He simply said with smaller bars, I know his mic kind of sucks or it's his internet.
God damn.
Yeah. With smaller bars, when you first started using Vana, it was hard to understand that these big bars don't essentially mean high volatility. We're talking the smaller the bars, the higher volatility.
Higher balls.
which means we can move through them faster. And if we hit this, it might be a roadblock because it's a big position, right? It's creating a low amount of volatility. And it almost creates these stairway effects. Let's see if I can hop to YouTube. And this is something
Guys, while Liquid does that, just so you know, we'll take care of the audio issue soon. And we'll do the best we can to just reiterate whatever Patty says, just so that you guys can hear it clearly. And as far as the flow chart, I know we're gonna go through these, and then we can go back to them and review anything that you guys want answers on and questions for.
So this is yesterday. This was a negative volatility day, or a negative gamma day, excuse me. Fatty's example for Vana is at the end of the day. There's a really good example for Charm at the end of the day as well. And it kind of illustrates all the things we're kind of trying to pull together here. These past two, today and yesterday, were really good examples. I hadn't realized that about the smaller bars before. Helpful. So a bigger bar that is distant away as an AOI with lots of smaller bars in between makes it highly likely that we hit the AOI. For Vana, let's see. I mean, this is kind of what he's talking about, right? So this isn't exactly like we're not going to move through these as easily as we will move through these bars, or even more so
Mm-hmm.
these bars over here. See, these are like tiny, and then it gets really, really big. Let's take off my drawing a little bit.
So that's how you
especially
start to point out support and resistances. When you see those big bars, those are the bars where we're going to encounter either support or resistance usually.
exactly.
Yeah,
These are large positions usually. That's why they're
and they'll
creating small amounts of
exactly
volatility.
which you can often see on Gamma as well, right? So if you like looking at this picture, you can see at 5120 we have a pretty decent size Gamma bar, right? On Delta Adjust as well as on Split on Raw. Yeah,
That's what you're talking about, right? You can even see it over here. All right, it's a big amount of puts right there. This is kind of how you can tie everything together sometimes. You can see it on Charm as well. When things start to line up, it's like the stars aligning. Chat dark mode. Yeah, chat is very bright.
close your eyes.
You can
Good
see it right here on
it's good.
speed too. Look at that thing.
Yeah, and then you can see the vast drop off right afterwards on speed, right? So you can tell after that there's not a whole lot of interest. And exactly what Liquid is drawing right now, that's that slide that I was talking about before, right? So you can see how stacked Gamma is to the downside. So as each subsequent strike goes at the money or in the money, the one next to it will slowly begin to take over, and then boom, 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 it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Well, and that way, this like the staircase to slide. It's it's the skew right there. Like I can pull up my skew things as well, right? It's
Yeah,
so skewed that the skew needs to move this way to
find
become
that mean.
balanced. Yeah,
King Moses, it depends on what IV is doing as well.
Yep.
but generally, yeah, they'll be for the most part, they'll act as a resistance or support. If volatility is low, they're more than likely supportive. Amachi, it depends on the day. I'm going to go through this a little bit here. And Glenny, on negative gamma days, part of the thing that's hard with them, part of the reason Geo doesn't like them, if you've ever heard him talk about it, is because it's harder to tell when there's where support and resistance is.
Yeah, which is funny. She doesn't like negative Gamma environments because that's my fucking jam, dude. I
Yeah.
love negative gamma environments. So this ball is fucking high, so you can get those crazy fucking moves both directions.
So let's move forward here. I think the stay kind of see. I mean, at least at some point you can tell this is going to act like support resistance because it actually did right there. I think it was support for a minute, but like we're saying on a day like this, if I go back, we were above that. And usually that would act as support on a positive gamma day, and we fell right through it. No pop out chat? Oh, there's chat, man.
Yeah, mine's popped out right now. I don't know. You just click chat, mine just comes up as a separate screen.
So essentially, we fell through this giant split on negative, and we just kind of kept going. So at some point, you can kind of tell if this doesn't hold on a negative day, this is probably going to be the resistance. And as we're pointing out, right, the skew. Now our example is kind of later in the day, so I'm going to kind of fast forward this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we have a picture of it.
Yeah, but and something I guess we can go back because this was actually kind of a good example for Vonda too. As we kind of
Yeah,
keep going on the day,
7 a.m.
the flip point kept moving out further and further. I'll go back a little bit here. See if I can. Jeez, NQ's just getting murdered right now.
Uh,
See, as see, I think we were further up here. As we kind of started to move down, the Vanna flip point kept moving down further and further. That's kind of almost like a magnet for the price. And it's how we, it's actually something we learned a while ago. You can actually see reversions or almost like a target for the day, especially on negative gamma days, like you were asking, Glenny. That's actually probably a better indication of where the price is going to go.
Guys, by the way, Super Econ, Lick post these in the chat every day, so you guys are able to pull up these videos and scroll back and forth as well.
So we go a little later in the day here. We kind of kept going down, and you can see that Vanna plank kept going out.
Glenny, as
Point.
far as the relying on Vanna, remember that there's also windows of weakness for Vanna, so it really depends on which one is in its time of strength, and you use that with other confluences to decide whether you can use it as support and resistance.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's just talking about us going over it. So we're going to get to a point towards the end of the day. I know everybody kind of knows about the window of weakness, but also the end of the day is also could be considered a window of weakness because it's right, especially right here. The last 30 minutes of the day, and it still happens with 0 DTEs. It's still a window of weakness. Especially that's why power hour gets so volatile and why we see these humongous moves.
It's also when gamma is at its greatest, right? So it's when
Yeah, exactly.
gamma is
Yeah.
when at its greatest effect.
So I think this is right where your example was, Fatty, right at what 334.
Yeah, 330, 345, something like that.
No, right.
This is my Vanna stairway to heaven. Exactly.
So this is Fatty's Vanna Stairway to Heaven, and I think he was pointing out to me right before we went on that you can see, right, it's kind of low to the upside. We do have, he did take pictures from the Discord, so we can go over those after too, but
Yeah, well, basically you can see, right? So in front of us, we have bars that are, not very big, but if we can start to catch a larger one, that is where we know volatility will decrease. So once we do eventually catch that larger bar, all of a sudden it starts pulling, and then it pulls to the next bar, and the next bar increases. So vol just continues to drop as we pull and pull and pull, and it will pull up until its flattest point.
you can see that's what starts to happen here.
Yep. The Vanna behind us drops, and the Vanna in front of us stays constant as we hit each single bar.
So this is almost, oh, and the day ends. Ah, I wish I could make this video stop right before the end of the day, but this is the effect that Shane talked about in previous classes, if people remember, where it's, you know, the point
1, 2.
0.15 or the 0.8 delta, and it's probably within these strikes right here. And as we start to
Yep.
move up, we start catching all of them. They all start flipping from probably 100 delta down to 0.8, so it starts creating a magnet. Confused regarding Geo said it only works as a magnet for spot price if delta is around 0.2. Well, King Moses, its effects, greatest. I have something for the option chain too, but it's imagine one side of the option chain being at 0.2 and the other side being at 0.8. Right. One side's calls. God, this thing doesn't write so great anymore. The other side's puts.
Yep.
Right. And as we start moving, one way, right, we're moving down. This will actually we went up ways. So we start going up. This number is going to start going up. This number is going to start going down, and the entire chain all the way down. Right. These things at 0.9 are going to start going to 0.8. These things over here that might be at 0.1 are going to start going up as well. So it's going to create a pulling effect. And this is also a good example of end of day charm rally. It was a charm,
Yep.
Vana charm rally. So what starts to happen is like I just pointed out, we start seeing that these contracts, right, probably through lack of liquidity, market maker starts exactly. It creates a feedback loop, Matt. Especially in together with charm, because we're looking at the last 14 minutes of the day right here. It's Pacific time, so it might seem a little off to some of you. And charm wasn't too negative, but at the same time, these contracts that are being priced, probably a lot of puts.
Well, it's also the effect of the where the puts were super heavy at 50-50, staying out of the money, right? So
Exactly,
since
yeah.
they stayed out of the money, now all of a sudden market makers no longer need to hedge that position, and as those deltas drop, they know, or as those deltas tend closer to zero, it means they just buy back all their shares sold for the puts that they would have had to deliver if, or the shares they had to deliver if the puts stayed at a one delta or higher delta. But as those deltas tend towards zero, they buy back all of those shares or options that depend on how they hedge the zero DTEs. But as those put strikes stay away from one, it means they buy back the shares that they had previously sold short in order to deliver.
Especially on a negative gamma day, they don't have as many buyers or sellers, depending on which side of the trade they are on, and they're in a rush to hedge these things at the end of the day with a lack of buyers or a lack of liquidity in the market. So it's going to create this giant feedback loop of them. trying to get to the race to close to get their, their
Get
portfolio
that shit off their books.
to neutral, right? Instead of being stuck down here, right, in negative delta land or up here in positive delta land. So, and this as kicked me off, chat does not separate. Oh. Former toes, I think that's just something with Zoom. I think you have to do something with full screen. I'm not a Zoom expert. But this is something common at the end of the day with negative gamma, and it's really the reason why we always see these giant
G shape.
huge V's. Exactly right. You don't usually see them that much on positive, but end of day negative gamma we will always usually see them, and it's because they're rushing the hedge or charm, and then at the same time volatility is kind of collapsing on their positions, creating that feedback loop that's going to push them to hedge like crazy maniacs. We actually saw the exact opposite today if people were playing that with the positive environment. So I actually have a slide from Nattenberg here. But essentially what happened, right? Can imagine these pushing the price, right? If they're like this one pushing up, and then this one actually more like over here. So that they have more leeway up here and less leeway down here. So it's creating this gap, and this gap has to close. And that's with Vana. And then with Charm, let's see, I think I have the Charm thing. I think this says it's calls. So if the calls that are closer, creating an accelerating effect to the exercise price, which means they're getting closer and closer to 100, which means they create a push. Or if they're puts, they're kind of doing the opposite, which they're pulling the price up. I actually have a picture of an option chain end of day too that we can look at. Oops, but let's do today because today was crazy. So
It's
today,
fucking awesome.
yeah, today we're talking about support and resistance. I know Glenny asked right here, 5100 again, like the day before, but it did almost the exact opposite of what we saw yesterday. It acted like a giant support. Let's see when we dropped here. Let's see, we actually went through it. I think that was the bottom of the drop. Oops.
Yeah, and you touched into negative gamma for a second. Dealers didn't want to be in negative
Yeah.
because they weren't hedged for it.
Basically, did a failed breakdown.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We hit the negative gamma area right below a giant, gamma magnet, like we were talking about. It's the most, it's strongest at the money, so it's created a probably giant upward hedge. See, I can actually kind of speed this up like this.
Whoa, Delta just look crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
And then once we made it through 5100, it's a support. At that point, you could probably use it.
There's a 4.
Right there. The price is going to continue upwards, even though it's the morning. I know that this is when it's expensive. Also, you got kind of a huge.
You guys can also see, even when we dipped below it, there was a lack of exposure underneath it. So that's a telltale sign that we're going to reverse towards it.
Me missing that morning. And then this was probably a lot of JPOW madness all morning up until Where do we make it?
Dude, them
50,
charts
30?
fly.
Before beige book. So you can tell kind of here at the top, we kind of had a slanted
Mm.
skew, right? Mean was probably out here. Yeah, that's what I'm about to do, Glenny. I know this doesn't seem like this is very skewed, but it is to some regard. I know if I draw it more like
Well,
this,
and,
this
and
tails with.
another thing, like Geo's definitely better to talk about delta adjusted games than I am, because he knows exactly those calculations. But the way I look at delta adjusted gamma is the biggest bars are going to have the biggest pull. So if you are looking to play the upside, you're going to try and find a big negative bar, because in that regard, it has like the largest negative delta combined with gamma. So dealers need to buy up to that price to be even on their deltas. And if you have extreme positive exposure below you, that is the largest bar, delta adjusted gamma, they are basically over delta at that point. So they're going to sell to that largest bar.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I don't know if anybody looks at Vana on two different split and not split. You can actually tell as we got closer to the top,
It walks it back.
the negative exposure became stronger and the positive exposure started to die off when we kind of hit the top. And we were all waiting for beige book. I think it started to happen in about 30 minutes from this point right here. See right before there. If you watch it a little bit, and this is something you could even see right before it starts, right as it starts to drop, you can already tell. I know it happened fast. The Vaughn is starting to die off. And then this is probably going to start acting like a magnet. And like Fatty just said, this is going to have the biggest pull on delta adjusted, just as well on raw. It's also the biggest split exposure. That's also why it acted as support in the morning. I know someone just asked that. Oops.
Mm. Oh, that candle is so beautiful. And that one.
The textbook split divergence right there.
Yeah. And of course, this is the volatility right here. You can tell volatility's going up. Like I said, when realized implied volatility rises, institutions are exiting.
One of you guys was asking how we monitor volatility. There's multiple ways you can do it. You can do it on the options chain. You can do it with VIX, the VIX ticker, and follow that. And then Lick can tell you guys about the indicator that he uses and how he overlays it.
Yeah. On this video, this is called the implied volatility suite. It's on TradingView. It's free. And so as we reach down this point, we got stuck in this channel.
Mm.
This is actually a charm effect at the end of the day. As the market starts becoming crowded, right? As there's a lot of buyers and sellers because we're in positive gamma environment, it creates kind of this push effect from both sides, right? As there's a lot of buyers or calls or buyers and sellers on both sides, kind of creating this not magnetizing, crushing effect to volatility, right? Even though we're falling fast, we just end up getting chopped up. We end up getting sucked in right to the biggest gamma node. And that's usually the effect of charm we see in comparison on these environments. And then we kind of had a little end of the day pop too, but it still ended up, I think we're just 5 points away from this.
Yeah, you closed at 4.
Yeah, see, went right back down. It's actually called, and it's called a pinning effect. There's actually things called pin risk for market makers. And then it's, see, I actually have something written right here. This it's often observed because of the actions of market participants, like market makers, traders with large option positions, adjusting their hedges in response to the diminishing time value as we approach expiration. It's just that exact picture I shared from Nattenberg, right? As we start getting closer and closer, they're hedging for this exercise price, and the ones closer are going to have more pull, creating like this push effect for everybody who's trying to, squeeze in. You can actually see it on the option chain. I didn't record today's option chain. Oops. But I have another one where you can kind of see, where is it? This effect. If you ever just watch the option chain, you can see right here the delta for calls on this day is 100 delta the entire way down. This side is not hedged as much. But if I go just a little bit forward here, it's going to let me select this. You can see it starts flipping back and forth. This side starts to become more edged. This side's less edged. And it creates that back and forth effect that we see on ending of positive gamma days. You can see one side's way more hedged, right? All the puts are hedged. But then as we go a little more forward in time, it flips back to the other side. And if people have ever seen me in chat say that we're about to get pinned or we're getting pinned, it's because I see this happening. It's the exact thing, right? Both sides of the chain, 100 delta, 100 delta, 100 delta. Having that press, it's like a compression effect from both sides. It's almost the same as the it's happening as Vana as well. How do you get the option chain in TOS? If you ask in Discord chat, I can tell you. There's a bunch of people that use TOS. I think you click trade. It's been a minute since I've opened it. Actually, I have it open right here. Click trade, and then you go to all products. Oops. So fully hedged market makers want to keep exactly where it's hence pinned at that level. Yeah, yes, Matt. Yeah, they're already hedged to the point, and there's a lot of buyers or sellers on both sides that they can fulfill, to keep their position, right? They're trying to keep things on even keel, and there's enough people right here to keep it, going, and it creates that effect. And just the same, like we were saying with Vana, Vana is affecting this as well because these big volatility, or I guess they're low volatility, like we were saying, the big bars are creating this effect where there's not a lot of movement, right? If this is the current strike price right here, you can see right at 0. And you can imagine these bars just getting closer and closer, right? To the point where they're just like, there's no place for the price to go. Like the wall's closing in on both sides on Indiana Jones.
The millennials aren't gonna get that reference.
Yeah. There's a new Indiana Jones movie. It's Gen Z, not millennials. Is the
Yeah.
painting something that can happen at any time? It's generally the end of day map. Yeah, David, there's some custom things we use on that. Yeah. So I think we kind of went over fatties.
Yeah, I mean, really, the biggest thing is that the stairway to heaven for the reject, and then showing how 5100 falls off is the biggest one in my opinion. I don't know if anyone can fucking,
So
but
this is 5100, right?
yeah. So
Yeah,
this
I
was
can
the
hear you.
news. This was the news pop, right? So we pushed up to 5115 on that 10 a.m. news drop, and
Oh
you can
yeah, right
see,
there.
and you can see the wall as we start dropping. We're not even at 5100 yet. Boom, 510, 5100 is already gone negative. So you can pretty much guarantee we're gonna fall through it, and we do. Once we fall through it, you start looking down for your targets at the larger bars.
Guys, we're coming up on an hour soon, so if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
anything that you guys want to review, any questions you guys have, you can start asking them. Um, we can definitely go over the flow chart as well.
How can we free fatty from the tunnels? Buy him Starnet.
Fuck.
Don't worry, Fatty's gonna buy Starlink soon.
Yes.
Like the
Yeah,
Yeah,
company.
when I get the new spot, start.
He's gonna buy the company at this rate.
yeah, King Moses with charm. Usually it's better to look at the total amount you can. Oop, I just closed chat. You can look at the bars themselves. The bars themselves will generally. Oops, I have the wrong window open. This is tomorrow or today. The bars themselves will generally line up with other AOIs or things like that. Like if you see a large bar like this and it lines up with, these bars don't line up, but you can tell it might be a big point of resistance or a very large position. I don't use footprint nokes. I know some people do. You might ask in the Discord. I know there's a few people that do use it pretty good. I can look back, Maki. I have a lot of things recorded. We're gonna try to do some stuff on Bowman tomorrow. It might take me some researching. Yeah, I'm gonna share the PowerPoint. Uh, Sometimes, Matt. Usually, the difference with positive gex and negative gex is that positive usually kind of has a movement where it does something like this, right? It starts here and it ends here. Negative might do something more like this, right? It's more chaotic.
Lobes on the flow chart, it's more so about what Ivy is doing, not necessarily where it's at.
Yeah, and another way to watch IV, if people don't know, on the option chain, if you're using TOS, or actually most option chains have it in the corner, and you can literally just watch the number, right? These are all for all the days. It also gives you the implied move for the day, right? Tomorrow, the implied volatility is implying that we will move 30 points, or we will be in a 30-point range. And what is that? The average IV for at the money call put? That's the number itself. The price is usually the same as an at the money straddle. You can do that if the number's there. I don't know how the average is calculated. I think different brokerages do it differently. No TOS is kind of different. Yeah, super econ. Usually the biggest gamma bar on a positive day acts like a magnet. Yeah, Endo, I believe it is. I think it takes an average for volatility. Okay, the split view. So are you just talking about, here, I'll move this to tomorrow so we can actually get a better view, not just the end of the day. So at some point, Glenny, I missed most of all messing with Zoom, but can rewatch. Yeah, Farmer Toast, just ask him in the Discord. Sorry that Zoom kind of crapped the bed on you. So the reason I started doing these two different things next to each other is because some days I noticed, you'd see things like this, and you wouldn't be able to tell that we almost had split divergences on Vana. And then sometimes the negative Vana might not really be seen like up here, you can't see it at all. But there are days where instead of just seeing like, something like this, you can slowly see this might start creeping up or this might start creeping down. Like all this positive slowly start going negative, if that makes more sense. Yeah, Noakes. More negative charm means calls will start getting they start getting more negative, so the positions have to get excuse me, or its puts start getting more negative. Get it backwards. So as puts get more negative, the negative delta increases. As negative delta increases, the market maker has to start buying more of the underlying, the hedge, right? So they have to start buying more ES, and that pushes the price up, or they start buying more calls on the other side, it pushes the price up. Right. If it were positive, they have to start hedging for the calls, which would create the opposite effect. They have to start buying shorts for the positive delta to offset it. I'm not a big fan of the skew Farzan, the gamma skew. It's essentially just a volatility skew.
No, I think what he means is like the skew
Oh,
curve that you draw.
oh, you mean, I think Geo did some things.
So like finding the mean basically of the play in positive. Yeah, there we go. Bang.
I think they're adding something to they're adding something that will do this automatically, right? Volatility skew, reverse skew. Where's the one where I have both? There we go. See.
Yeah.
And I do have these pictures shared in the Discord. If you can't find them, just tag me. I'll repost them. Glenny, the average IV is indicating how big the move of the day will be. Like I said, you could do it by looking at the price of an at the money straddle. So right here, you can look at this. It's also, if it's not included on your brokerage, So tomorrow, when we look at the option chain, the 15.93% is indicating that we're going to move one standard deviation. I believe that's the standard deviation.
Mhm.
So we're going to move within the range of 30 points. It doesn't indicate that it will be a 30-point move, but it's going to be within that range. If volatility increases, there's a higher probability that we will move up, but it does not mean we will. And a lot of these days, like I was saying, they just end up mean reverting, right? They end up going up or down, almost like what we saw today. Oh, how do on the gamma chart? I mean, you just hover over it. If it helps you, you can turn off everything else and just have that. If you didn't know that you could do that, you can do that. These are buttons. But this is pretty much just reading the strikes themselves, right? The bottom of the curve is that 5165. If you look over here, this might be different on your brokerage, but this changed at some point. And what does the skew on the IV line mean? Usually it means puts or calls or more volatile. So if one side's more slanted than the other, there's more volatility to one side or the other. Like we were saying, less buyers on one side or more buyers on the other. So for tomorrow, there's actually more calls and less puts.
Puts are more expensive.
Yeah, puts are being priced higher.
Yep.
Calls are lower
Which
priced.
means they're scared.
Exactly that.
Drop it.
Yeah, tomorrow, even tomorrow looks kind of weird.
More news.
Oh, is there? She's. Oh
Hey,
yeah, we got J Pow talking again. Yeah, Congress is gonna get him and harass him again.
run it back, baby.
Yes.
Guys, just to give you some context, so the goal with these classes, we're gonna try to make these recurring and live. So if you had technical difficulties or if you weren't able to ask a question, the point of these classes is to have these be recurring so that, especially for new members, so that when they come in, they have a live class where they can participate and learn the basics and learn things from scratch. So we're gonna revisit a lot of topics. We're gonna do these. We're gonna try to set up a monthly schedule where we can kind of, cram everything into each class and go over with you guys constantly. And we'll be, rotating the examples. We'll try to use examples that we use every day for all of the instances that we're describing. So like I said, if you miss something or if you have a question that pops up later on, you'll have plenty of opportunities to ask them because we're gonna keep doing these and keep cranking them out constantly.
There's more gamma under above the AOI, but the IV line on the gamma is pointing skewed to the opposite side. Does that price usually go to where the more gamma or the IV line is skewed to? Not necessarily. I don't. Oh, chat's jumping a little bit. That might be more of a geo question. I don't tend to use the IV skew unless it's really messed up and kind of different. Right now it looks different, but in the morning it's going to change and it might be more centered. So you can see the difference in calls and puts by higher prices by having lower volatility, more positions, so more liquid. Lower prices have a higher curve, so they have more volatility, meaning less positions, lower than strike. It could also mean that the market maker has a lot more calls and they want people to buy them, so the prices are lower. Does that make sense? If they don't want to take on the risk of selling more puts to everybody, they will up the price of the puts. And then vice versa. If they don't want to have people buying a lot of calls, they're going to start upping the price on the calls because they don't want to take on the risk. Glenny, if anything, with the DUI, align it with gamma and other things. Like I was saying, if everything lines up, it generally can mean there's a big position.
Oh,
All right, well, it's been about an hour.
yeah.
All right, you guys good for tonight?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
All right, I'll end
Unless
that.
anybody has no questions.
Yeah, Glenny, I'm glad that makes sense. It's exactly what it's like. It's like a bookie, and they're taking advantage of the market in that way.
But somebody was asking about speed. Yeah, you could definitely check out Fatty's video on speed. That's a great explainer for it. But we're like I said, we're gonna do these recurring. We're gonna cover everything. We want to be able to explain every aspect of the dashboard to you guys. So we'll be expanding it. We're starting off at the beginning. So part of what we're doing is also just figuring out how much each topic takes and how we're gonna split it across the month so that we can try to cover everything for you guys.
And so tomorrow, hopefully, don't have too short notice of this for us because our schedule got a little switched around. We're going to try to do the derivatives of gamma and vega. Oops. I know this says Volga, but this will be Voma. We're not doing D Vega time. We just did Vana, and there's a speed video already. So we're going to try to cover these.
Yeah, I mean, speed in my opinion will get wrapped up in, especially with the speed zone to zone connection
Yeah,
that
that's true.
I
So
personally love. But yeah, I mean, there is already a speed vid on the Discord.
and these are the third level down. We just did second level, right? Now we're going to the third level.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'm gonna end it, and then yeah. Also, for those who are in here, we're starting tomorrow. I'll be sending out like weekly newsletters on every Thursday and every Sunday. So the Thursday newsletter is going to be basically like a recap of Monday through Wednesday, and then potential expectations for Thursday, Friday, and then the Sunday newsletter is going to be based upon aggregate data of
Yeah,
Monday through Friday. So I'm going to get that rolling out for this coming week, starting tomorrow morning. But once that's
newsletter sick as fuck, bro.
yeah, I mean it's helped a lot of people kind of hold the idea from Mancini because he does a daily
Yeah,
one, but I don't have the
I
fucking
like
time to
it.
do
The
a
dailies are hard.
I was
yeah.
about to say I'm canceling my Beanie subscription.
But yeah, I'm gonna get that rolling starting tomorrow morning, and then
That's
hopefully
sick,
it
dude.
helps people kind of just, I guess, have some form of expectation going into the week. It is not financial advice, so please do not take it that way. But
It's
yeah,
just notes.
yeah, it's just notes, guys. It's just notes. It'll also be links to maybe like some previous sessions, or I guess some small clips of the previous sessions and whatnot. But yeah, that'll be rolling out tomorrow. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. It'll be shareable form to spread the word. Yeah, so the plan is to basically we're gonna be sending that out to our entire emailing list, and then following that, we're gonna also open it up to the public just for free. But yeah, that's small news.
Hell yeah.
Figured I would tell it to you guys since everyone's in class. Finesse advice, not financial advice. Yes, sir. But I'm gonna end the meeting here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once this gets processed, I will upload it to YouTube as always, and you guys will get the notification on the Discord. So with that being said, everyone have a great rest of your night, and remember, keep moving forward. Thank you guys.
Have a good
Have a
night,
good
everybody.
Good night, y'all.